This video is about the questions from several friends regarding the interpretation of Sir John Kay's The Corporation in the 21st Century. Below are our responses, for reference only. Question 1. With the development of AI, will the value of humans to companies increase or decrease? Response. The value of distinctive individuals to companies will increase. The value of mediocre individuals will decrease. AI's intelligence is cheap, universal, and openly available. Any company can easily access top-tier AI capabilities. So who will stand out and capture economic rent? It will inevitably be determined by human factors. We can't yet say exactly what those factors are, but they will certainly be distinctive. Things only you possess and others don't. It doesn't have to be intelligence or talent. Perhaps people buy from a certain company, simply because its founder has a legendary life story that resonates with them. Those without distinctiveness, who only offer standardized intelligence, will likely hold little value. That said, there are ways around this. For example, you can build a personal brand around being responsible and reliable. No matter how advanced AI becomes, the nuclear button must still be in human hands. A person trusted enough by the company to be given certain decision-making powers will always be valuable. And reliability is not a plug-and-play skill. You have to know the people in the company well and earn their trust, which can only be built through day-to-day interactions over time. Question 2. Can you talk about labor unions? Are they necessary, assuming a sound legal foundation? Do their disadvantages outweigh their advantages? And what are their long-term effects? Response. Many people believe that labor unions in developed countries are a kind of tumor. One of the major reasons behind the decline of manufacturing. There's the well-known case of Fuyao Glass in the US and more recently, last year's dockworkers' strike on the US East Coast. Take the dockworkers as an example. Their union not only demanded a 77% wage increase, but also, fearing that automation would take workers' jobs, demanded a halt to port automation altogether. The strike shut down 36 ports for 3 days, causing an average economic loss of $820 million per day and affecting nearly half of all import-export cargo. The eventual settlement was a 62% wage increase, with the automation issue postponed for future discussion. Isn't this going against the tide? Isn't this obstructing modernization? But unions have always been alliances of the weak. An individual worker has no bargaining power. They must band together to negotiate with the factory. Thanks to unions, the world gained the 8-hour workday, occupational safety legislation, and overtime pay, all of which advanced social progress. Unions can also benefit employers. With a union, you have a negotiating counterpart, and issues can be resolved through discussion. Without that, if workers are pushed too hard and respond with mass unrest, the factory suffers as well. Organized negotiation is always better than unorganized violence. Imagine if oppressed farmers in ancient China could have formed unions to negotiate with the authorities. Orderly reform would have been possible, and the massive death toll that accompanied every dynastic change could have been avoided. Instead, society would spend decades restoring stability, only to find that the peasants' lives had not improved at all. We cannot say that unions should be abolished just because they sometimes obstruct automation. Unions are not a gift from employers. They are workers' rights. Nor should we treat not having unions as a competitive advantage. Low wages and poor benefits may be advantages for factory owners, but they are not advantages for workers. Workers are not beasts of burden. The reality is that with or without unions, automation will bring a host of social challenges. Having unions simply makes it easier to address those challenges through negotiation. Question 3. Are companies that produce lithography machines or operate like TSMC considered manufacturing or high value? Response. Lithography machines are an extremely special type of product. They cannot be mass-produced, they involve a vast amount of service work, and they are not simply manufactured in a single factory. Take extreme ultraviolet, EUV, lithography machines, for example. There is only one brand in the world, ASML, and behind it are thousands of companies jointly producing and assembling them, one unit at a time. And it's not just about delivering the machine. ASML must enter fabs like TSMC to guide installation, production, and maintenance. ASML has even developed AI algorithms to predict when specific components will fail. So the service component in lithography machines is substantial. TSMC itself also participated in ASML's EUV lithography R&D. All R&D activities fall under services, and the output is the intangible part of the product's value. A convenient metric to assess how much added value a manufacturing company has is its gross margin. With a high gross margin, a company has spare resources to invest in R&D and upgrades, giving it autonomy and the ability to steer its own fate during times of change. Traditional manufacturing margins are usually not high. Cars are around 10%, own-brand consumer electronics about 15 to 20%, industrial machinery about 20 to 35%. Medical instruments, due to higher barriers, might enjoy 30 to 50%. In smartphones, for example, Foxconn is Apple's contract manufacturer. It actually participates in some of Apple's R&D, growing alongside Apple. Yet even so, its gross margin on iPhone production is under 5%. The only reason it's worth doing is because of the huge shipment volume. At such a low margin, it's not really making money. For a $1,000 iPhone, Foxconn's factory price to Apple is just over $300, while Apple enjoys a gross margin of more than 70%. Chips are much harder to make than phones, and for cutting-edge process nodes, TSMC is the only player in the world. So it enjoys far higher margins than Foxconn. For example, on the NVIDIA H100 GPU, TSMC takes about 50% gross margin from the chip fabrication step, already far above traditional manufacturing. Considering packaging and other post-production steps, a finished H100 costs about $3,320 to make, while NVIDIA sells it for $25,000 to $30,000 apiece. That's a gross margin of over 90% for NVIDIA. Of course, Apple and NVIDIA spend enormous sums on R&D, but even after accounting for that, their profit margins are extremely high. What they truly sell, at the core, is intangible value. So the answer is, Foxconn and TSMC do possess their own collective know-how. That's why they can secure big orders. But as manufacturers, the margins they enjoy are still far lower than those of the R&D, design, and brand owners. Manufacturing will never disappear. Just as agriculture will never disappear. But manufacturing is destined to remain low profile. Question 4. Here it said that companies should follow the principle of soft relationships plus hard confirmation, with the soft part taking precedence and the hard part serving as a safety net. From a game theory perspective, how should we understand this strategy? Response. This is a classic repeated game scenario. In most real-world situations, cooperation benefits both parties. For example, suppose you're the client and I'm the contractor, we do a deal without making the contract overly detailed, help each other out, and make things convenient for both sides. That's the soft relationship. The only real danger in choosing cooperation is, if I cooperate but the other side does not, hard confirmation exists only to guard against that risk. If two parties are only going to interact once, and afterward neither can be held accountable, both sides might treat it as a one-shot deal and be tempted to cheat. In such a case, strict contracts and legal constraints become necessary. However, in real life, local businesspeople, especially large companies, often engage with each other more than once, and may have many future transactions ahead. In such a repeated game, choosing cooperation becomes rational. As we discussed in our game theory series, as long as the game is repeated and there is the possibility of future cooperation, it is rational to cooperate now. In this sense, conducting business primarily through soft relationships is not just a matter of good social norms, it's also the rational choice for rational actors. Hard confirmation is still necessary because uncertainty always exists, and you need to guard against the rare case when someone makes an irrational choice under pressure. Situations that become common practice often represent a game-theoretic stable state, a Nash equilibrium. If potential partners in the market don't follow this strategy, then you naturally can't change things unilaterally. Businesses in such environments are usually high risk, high investment, long-term, and may involve confidentiality conditions that make repeated games difficult and diminish the importance of social reputation. Examples include large-scale infrastructure projects or the defense and military industries. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.